Right, mate. So before we get stuck into your story, and how are you and the family doing?
Yeah, we're all good, thanks, mate. Yeah, we're all good. Little lads downstairs in bed. I've got the other two upstairs. They're doing something else. The wife's downstairs watching TV. So standard, it kind of it's a rugby training night, done it? So I can
Yeah.
get out of sitting there watching rubbish TV.
Right. So where was home? Where was home for you, and who did you grow up with?
St Helens, mate. So St Helens lad. Lived with my mum and my dad. My mum and dad split up when I was about 17, but
Right.
yeah, lived there with my sister.
Right.
Yeah, started off in Sunny Park.
Yeah.
And then moved over to Sutton when I was about 10.
Hey, some good product comes from the par, mate, doesn't it?
Yeah, mate, there was. Yeah, we had good teams.
Yeah. So where does that competitive edge come from then, mate? If it's just you and your sister.
Yes, I suppose we had a competitive edge with her sister as well.
Yeah.
She, probably still do now. To her fact, she's about 6'1" as well. So,
Right.
so there's a big side. Yeah, my dad played. My dad played for Flattery.
Right.
In the 80s and 90s. So he had me when he was like 20.
Yeah.
So when he was still 30 playing, I was a 10-year-old watching Tatooine everywhere and following them. And he was a good player. He had quite a few offers to go pro, but back then in the 80s, he was working down the mines and he had two kids by the time he was 22 and making more money down the pit than going to, I think, Warrington and Widnes and a few others came in for him.
Right.
He was a good amateur player.
Yeah, madness, that, innit? So where was you introduced to rugby and how did it come about?
So yes, obviously because my dad played, I ended up going down to Blackbrook when I was about 6.
Yeah.
And I started off there playing at Blackbrook and I had a few years at St Helens Crusaders as well.
Right.
So
that's the way for people that don't know, mate, innit?
It's that way now. Yeah, that way Crusaders now. Yeah, so yeah, it was St Helens Crusaders then. That way, didn't have much of a junior setup back then.
Right. So how long did you play rugby league for, mate? Did you manage to do the town team stuff and that?
Yeah, so I played like Northwest Counties, I think, when I was under 13s, and I played the town teams where I think under 11s, under 13s. And then I stopped then. I was probably more of a late developer, mate. I was one of these kids who was probably really good from the age of like 7 to 13, and then I was pretty shit. If I'm totally honest. And I kind of gave up for a few years.
Okay.
I think I was so I'm 6'7".
Yeah.
So I think at the time I was the big kid who they give the ball to, and I played like that. And I think when I got to about 12, 13, I was just like the normal size to everyone.
Yeah.
I think your confidence gets shot even at that young age, and
yeah,
kind of just fell out of love. I think I remember playing over at Crusaders and getting like 5 minutes off the bench here and there. And I was thinking, this is pretty rubbish, this. So I ended up packing in for a few years. And then when I was about 16, a friend of mine, Liam McLaughlin, he was playing at West Park.
Yeah.
And he said to me, why don't you come down to West Park? So I went playing uni and then joined the dark side.
Right.
And then never really looked back then. But like, them junior years were great. The town teams we were in was like Paul Wellens, Scott Barra, all these lads, and they were good times.
Yeah. So going back a little bit, mate. So what high school did you go in? Was that when Union first entered your life, or did you?
No. Wait, I went to Sutton High School, and we didn't play any rugby. The teachers was like footballers. We managed to get a rugby league against a few cup games when we were about 13, 14. And I'll never forget because he was the Wagman, the truants officer, Dennis Glynn. And I ended up playing with his son Chris Glynn for quite a few years at West Park and at Sedgley Park. Yeah. But Dennis was the Wagman, and we had, because we had no rugby teachers. He said, "I'll help coach the rugby team." I remember falling out with him when I was about 14 because he was trying to teach us rugby union and we were playing Oldham St Anne's or something like that. I was going, this is rubbish. You don't know what you're talking about. Yeah. And he always tells me, I always said to you, he's the one who then eventually was going, you'd be better at union, you should go to West Park. And when I turned up there a few years later, he was there. Yeah. And I said he got me to union, but he never caught me wagging school. So that was the bonus. Yeah. That was the bonus that he never did that. And I'm still good mates with his son now. We speak quite a lot. Yeah, it's good.
Class. So, how was the club rugby compared to? Well, like you said, you only played a few games, but was your standard good, mate?
Yeah, it wasn't too bad. We had a lot of talented lads, but like we only had about 3 or 4 who actually played rugby. The rest of them were footballers. And it used to be mad because my dad used to coach the rugby team for us on Sunday morning. So I used to get all these hard knocks turning up at 9 o'clock on a Sunday morning to be taught over sort of nice school. And we had like a few games then. I always remember you'd end up throwing the odd swear word else, and then my dad would give me a telling off for swearing. And all the lads would laugh at me. Because, like I say, I would have probably been like 13 then. My dad would have been like 33, wouldn't he? So it wasn't. So yeah, it was good. So we tried it for a bit, and we had quite a few. I think we only had about 10 school games of that over them years. But yeah, they were good times. They were good fun. And I think that's when I was probably not like I said, when I was playing at Blackbrook and stuff like that, I probably got to that age of 13 where I wasn't probably the better player. So going back in school, I was still the better player. I think I enjoyed it a bit more. Doing that.
So was that a bit of a confidence boost for you then?
Yeah, I think it was, and I think that's what probably helped me kick on and go, do you know what? Because I'd always done rugby. I love rugby. I watch it. I'm a bit of a rugby pig. I watch it all the time. So I think having that made me want to go back. And like I said, I started college when I was about 16, and one of the lads was there. I was like, yeah, I'll go down to West Park. Right. And then it coincided with that. That's when I probably had my growth spurt and everything else. And then suddenly your confidence comes back. Yeah. So I've always been a big advocate of these lads who get binned off when they're younger from the academies and different things. When actually they might not have ever had a chance properly. And you get different late bloomers.
No, that's it, mate, innit? And like, especially at the Wids, mate, we get like quite a lot of lads that will fall out the academy and have a flirt with us.
Yeah.
And then they'll do like, you've probably come across it yourself, so because we're winter rugby still. So they'll go winter with us, and then they decide who the preference is. So if rugby league's the preference, mate, they'll cross over and miss the last month and a half.
Yeah.
Do the full summer and then come back. So everyone needs that game time, mate, innit? And
at Preston, where I'm coaching, we've got quite a lot of lads who played at Wigan St Pat's.
Right.
And they come over with me about 4 years ago. A few of them come at Fylde when I was coaching at Fylde.
Yeah.
And they come to Preston, and a few of them ended up stopping with the league.
Right.
Ended up enjoying the union more, maybe because they got a few quid to play as well.
Don't get me wrong, that helps, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does help. Yeah. So like, I think a few of them did it. It's like a winger called Tyler Spencer, a good player. He did it. I think he did back to back for a few seasons.
Right.
And then I think he just got to I'm just going to play union now.
And when you first started playing union, mate, how did you get to grips with the nitty gritty in the dark arts? the back tends the killer in rugby league, innit? But other than that, if you're a big, strong lad, it tends to be big lad against big lad. No offence to people, innit?
I think I'm always... God, I'm still in the same my WhatsApp group with my mates from school, and they'll never give you any recognition for doing anything in rugby union. They still say to me, all you did is play that shit kick and clap. But I think if you understand the game, it always it's one of them that winds me up with, you've got league fans and union fans, and union embrace a lot of rugby league. They embrace the attack coaches, the defence coaches, they bring it in, but the union league sides, it's just still that working mentality of no, we're not taking anything in. But there's a lot to learn from both codes, and I think the fitness side of it always makes me laugh when you see I told you made 12 tackles, and you get some ex-pro jump on and go, yeah, well, I made 46 at the weekend, but I told you also at 28 rucks, which is as good as making a tackle. So unless you know the intricacies of it, do you know what I mean? It can be tough, but I think it's a different kind of fitness than getting back 10 and taking it up. But because I went watching live the other week, I've been to Saints because I'm only half a mile from Saints' ground. So I've been walking down on a Friday night for my mates, have a few beers and watching. I can't believe how much walking they do, though, some of the players. They take a carry, don't they? And then it's a good walk, but get your breath back. So it's all, your cameras don't really see that because they're not even in play.
No,
until you're watching it live. Until I was watching it live, I think it was Morgan Knowles, who I think is probably one of the best players in Super League at the minute. Yeah. And he made a great carry, and then it was a kick chase, and then he just walked for 2 minutes to get back. Yeah. And I was going, why is he walking? Obviously, you don't pick that up. That's then getting the breath, isn't it? And
that's it, mate.
So there's so much. It's a different kind of fitness, just getting up, getting your body off the floor, and getting to the next ruck. And it might not be as fast paced. Taking it in, but the different fitnesses.
No, it is, mate, and especially like I think yourself, you'll know as well as like I shouldn't have been a back rower. Really, the lads will ridicule me now. I didn't want to play it, mate, but in the back row, your effort is to get back and out your back three out.
Yeah.
So when I was playing front row, playing rugby league, and I was getting back because I can't switch that off, and then realising not everyone else is getting back. It's a surprise, isn't it? But
it is. I remember I played I played for Sale Sharks against Saints in the half game.
Right.
When they did half league, half union.
Yeah.
I think it's 20 odd years ago now. that's how long that game is. 20 years ago. I remember being absolutely knackered doing the league half.
Yeah.
It was just because I think when the ball's on the right hand side of the pitch and you're on the left, but you're still sprinting up, and it's trying to conserve that energy when you've not played it. I remember absolutely trying to impress all my mates in the crowd because I was playing against Saints. I just remember being absolutely knackered after I played about 45 minutes. But I always remember that as a good memory, and probably I played. And then the last time I played was I played in the Help for Heroes.
Yeah.
No, they played again. It was half league, half union, and you had Wayne Godwin, Keith Senior, Martin Gleeson, all these guys playing. And I remember being knackered then, getting back 10. I was all right. I was always in the back of a driving line out. Yeah. Getting back 10, I was like, this. It's a different type of fitness.
No, it is, mate. It is, and even upstairs, it's a different reading of the game as well. Isn't it?
Yeah.
So going back as a kid, then, mate, and you come into the back end of school. What's an option for you? So is education something you're keen to stay in, or were there offers there from places?
No, like I said, the rugby then probably wasn't. I just started again at West Park and stuff, and I remember going to college. I went to do welding and fabrication at college with like I said, with a friend, and then I went to West Park, and I just remember seeing them getting paid a few quid. And that's when I probably thought, you know what, my confidence was getting better. I was doing all right. Probably I finished school with my GCSEs, but I was no rocket science going. Do you know what I mean? I always wanted to do something with my hands. And that's when I probably started knuckling down then, thinking, actually, I could make a career out of rugby.
Right.
And I started training harder then, going to the gym, making sure I worked extra hard with my dad, doing extra training sessions, and kind of progressed that way into it. And I think when I was 18, 19, and Sedgley Park come knocking. Okay. I'll never forget going to West Park and old guy John Gilman, rest his soul. I went over to him. I said, Sedgley Park have said to me, if I do 2 training sessions, they give me £35 a week. And if I play on a Saturday, they'll give me £100. I said, if you give me 30 quid, I'll stay. He said, there's not a chance we're going to give you 30 quid. Your best ball's off to Sedgley Park. And I did. So really, I've got Gilman to thank for it, because I probably would have stayed at West Park thinking I was getting 30 quid a game off West Park, thinking this is amazing. In 1997, yeah.
Yeah. No, that's mad, isn't it, mate? So what did West Park teach you in the men's game? Because it's from Colts to men's is totally different, isn't it?
Yeah. So we had a really good Colt side. Wellings was there as well. So Wellings hadn't been picked up by Saints. He was one of the others who had it. So Wellings was playing. We had, like I say, we had a really good side. Steve Breers, who's good, not gone on, played flanker, good level, played with him at Fylde. We had a really good Paul Bailey as well, who played England 18s, but he was still at West Park at the time and had a good career. We had a really good Colt side, and we really enjoyed it. And then on a Saturday, we were playing for the second team, which I think teaches you so much. I remember being in one of my first games, probably against Widnes Second or something like that, and I just remember getting just a massive fight kicking off. I just kind of stood there with my blinkers on, just getting whacked at the side of the head, and then just following it back with throwing a few more, thinking, it's all right, it's not too bad. But it just that step up, and I think a lot more lads need to, which I know they brought in the rule that you have to be 18 now to train and stuff. I think that was kind of the school of hard knocks when you were playing against some good old heads in the West Park side.
Yeah,
and then like Tuesday night training sessions would just be full biff, wouldn't it? First team versus second team, knocking hell out of each other on driving lineouts and stuff, and it kind of really toughened you up and taught you a lot.
Yeah. And one of the things that I like about the rugby union as well, I don't know if West Park done it in the clubs you've been at, which we'll touch on, but knowing the team in the week. So, you don't rock up on a Saturday like rugby league do it a lot, don't they? And tell you at midday.
Well, I find it crazy when I was watching that. Was it the class of '92? And the footballers, they just get told an hour before kick-off what the team is. And you wonder why some of them had more. Yeah, no, I'm always. Yeah, West Park used to have an old board with your names on.
Yeah.
And you'd go in the physio room and you'd see what team you was in.
Right.
And then what you'd find some lads would probably be dropped from the. I was on about this the other week when I was talking to someone. some lads that get dropped from the first team and be in the second team, but they won't want to play that, so they go to the third team. They'd move themselves about. It's just quite funny. All that looking back. But yeah, so you do that, and as a coach, I've always been one for. I always pick the team on a Wednesday. We probably put it out, but I'll make sure all the lads. I'll let them know if they're not in the squad.
Yeah.
And make sure they know. Yeah, we try and get to a few times if you're waiting on injuries and stuff like that. The squad, you'll tell them the squad will be announced after training on Thursday, but normally try and always organise it so the lads know.
And how was you as a player, mate? Did you want someone to be direct with you, like it sounds like you are? Or?
Yeah, I think it's a hard thing. I remember I had Yestin Harris coaching with me at Preston when I started, and I always remember him saying to me, "Yeah, every player wants honesty until you're honest." and it's very true. I think when I first started coaching, I said I'm not going to be one of them bullshitters. I'm going to tell these lads the reasons why. And I remember speaking to a lot of coaches about how they did it. I think when you do your coaching badges, the man management style's one thing that they don't really teach you.
Yeah.
And they can teach you about everything else, but man management and how you handle players was something that I had to come to grips with pretty quick. I think my first coaching job, I took over as Fylde as the head coach while still playing. Right. So I've been there I ended up doing 7 years. So I think I've been playing for about 4 years, and then I took over as head coach. So suddenly I've got all my best friends here who I've played with for years. And then I'm telling them you're not playing Saturday because you're not playing good enough. So then players take it personal.
Yeah.
And it's like you're trying to explain to them as a coach, everything you do as a coach is for the best of the team on a Saturday and to get results. It's not because I just don't like you as a person or there'll be a reason behind something. So you might have done this wrong in the game, or I want you to work on this, or it could be you've got somebody coming back and I'm just like, hey, look, I just think he's playing better.
Yeah.
But as long as you're honest with him, I find that should help, but sometimes it still doesn't help. I think I had a guy called James Wade. I don't know if Matt Riley spoke about him. He was like the academy guy at Sale Sharks.
Okay.
And he's the one who had to kind of release all the players if they weren't getting kept on.
Lovely job.
Yeah, so no one liked him. He was the academy coach, but no one liked him because they were like, he's fucked me off. And I had him I had him as my mentor on my level 3 coaching award. And he was brilliant. He was just a top bloke. But I remember speaking to him about that and he said, I had to release 40 lads a year. He said, no one like me. So you're on about man managing players now. How do you think I did it back then?
Yeah.
He said, and he said, and at that age, he's releasing sometimes 16, 17, 18-year-olds who haven't actually experienced the world or rugby and being disappointed. So suddenly they just think, well, he's a bastard for life kind of thing. Excuse me, Fred, do you know what I mean? Yeah. Until you actually end up in that situation and you're coaching, you've got to work things out. It's kind of tough.
Because not that you're lucky, because obviously you've earned the right to be at them clubs you've been at, but the clubs you've been at are in a good enough position to say an 18-year-old does get released. Yeah. Not pop up, but you can clean that up, can't you?
Yeah.
Because I imagine a few years ago, I know it's a bit better now, but some of them like 17 to 20-year-olds won't have played a lot of club rugby because they were fully invested in this opportunity.
Yeah, definitely. That's what I mean. I think even going back to the rugby league, I think when I talked about when I played at Blackbrook, I think out of the Blackbrook side, there was about 18 lads who signed professional contracts. Yeah. And there was about 5 of us who didn't. But like out of them 18 lads, there was only probably 2 or 3 who played in the end because the rest of them got released when they were 17, 18, and there were some good players.
Yeah.
And they just never played again. Do you know what I mean? There should be something there, I think, in both codes where you've got that safety net of actually bringing them back into a senior setup.
Yeah.
And I think that's where union works. Union works well with, you've got the Colts and stuff where you can then shake them, you can start blooding them into a second team and a third team and stuff like that. And I think sometimes like other sports can learn from that as well to make sure you're trying to keep them in the game as much as they can.
That's it, mate. And they have to play half a game now, I believe, in the Colts.
Yeah, well, I worked up until COVID. I worked for the RFU for about just short of 9-10 years.
Yeah. And
that was our main game, going around clubs and speaking to coaches about developing these lads and giving them game time. And I'd use myself as an example. They'd have like a Lancashire Cup semi-final and they'd be like, oh yeah, we're just going to take this Burr 15 because the rest of our squad aren't good enough. And you'd be like, but in 5 years' time, you might be your best player, or he might be your club treasurer, or he might be working in the canteen. But and they're some of your best players. But like, if you're not giving them a chance and they fall out of the love with the game, which is what I did when I was 13, 14, I just stopped playing.
Yeah.
Like, then you're going to lose these stalwarts of your club, kind of thing. Like, you don't even realise. So it's trying to get that junior set up at all levels and aspects to make sure that everyone's getting a fair crack. And sometimes, everyone loves winning.
Yeah,
I'm not saying that that's not important. But sometimes at under 12s winning, the big scheme of things, it's not going to upset you if you lose the odd game.
No. So the Fylde move comes about, mate, and what I've never had to move about, to be honest. So what happens on the scene? Because you're semi-pro, mate. There's no doubt in that, and there's a few quid there. How does that come about? The clubs get in touch with you via you.
Yeah. So I started off. I had quite a few. I started off at Sedgley Park, and then I went to Sale Sharks.
Right.
And then I basically went back on loan to Sedgley, a bit like what Riles did.
Yeah.
When he was playing, and then when Sale didn't want me, we essentially got promoted then to what was the Championship. Beyond that, that's one I played in. I played for 4 years at Sedgley. We had 2 promotions up to the Championship, and when Sale released me, I'd kind of decided, I thought, I've learnt enough of it as much as I can. So I went to Arnold down the road, and that was a different one for me.
From punching people to learning again.
Yeah. Well, that was my story in the rugby paper, and that was good. But when you talk about it, like becoming a man, I had Tim Ferree there, who was basically giving me a chance at Sedgley Park.
Yeah,
and they had some big second rows and big names when I was 19 coming through, and I managed to get them into the side, and basically they kind of got released and stopped. They were getting on. But there's a big Romanian international, Christian Radicanu, who was absolute nails. Andy Kimmins, who was an old legend as well. So I was like a young lad coming in there to them two. They both taught me a lot, and I had the year learning me craft in the second team and dipping in and out of the first team. And then when I got my chance, I played every game from that the following season and went on, and that's when I got picked up. But yeah, they're the days and trying to learn your trade at that level. It was a lot different back then.
Yeah.
You can get away with it. You get away with a lot more back then.
Yeah. So how was that step from West Park to Fylde to Sedge to Sale? Are you feeling different levels all the time, or are you?
Definitely. I think when I remember joining when I went to Sedgley, and that was just when Sedgley were just starting to come into their own, and they had a few quid knocking about. And we had Carlos Hassan and John Scales in the centres, the 2 Bradford Bulls guys. I remember watching John Scales score against Saints in the '96 Challenge Cup final. So I was a bit like, wow, this is brilliant. Yeah, and the levels then nipped on, and we talk now about training and going away and stuff like that. The lads then was only on. He got paid. Some of them would have been on retainers, but as a young lad coming in, you weren't a lot. But you trained 3 nights a week. You trained a Saturday morning. You know what I mean? You had to put in the time because you would, like you say, you wasn't quite full time. But and then I got the move to Sale after that, where you was kind of full time. It's different. So, but you've got to kind of put them hard yards in when you were younger. And I think I get frustrated with some of the youngsters today. I don't think they understand. Like they'll be like, "Oh, I'm going out with my girlfriend tonight for it's a birthday." What are you doing? Yeah. I was like, I've taught them to lie now. I said, just don't tell me the truth. Just tell me you're ill. Don't be honest and tell me you're going out with your girlfriend for a meal, missing training. I said, it's just like a different era now.
Nah, mate, it's changed, hasn't it? It has changed. So when you're mixing it with the characters you're saying you're mixing it with, mate, are you also like nitpicking at what things they do for the little fine margins? Because all of this, you're building your education up to be potentially the best coach you could be when you've stopped playing, without knowing probably as well, haven't you? And
yeah, I was always a thinker. I think playing rugby league helped with that. So I wasn't your typical second rower who was just hitting every ruck and just winning line-outs. I was kind of stood out a lot more and offloading and ball handling and getting involved that way, which a lot of people have told me afterwards, you never hit a ruck, so why are you bothered? So, but yeah. But and I think that made me think a lot more about the game, coming from a league background and how you can manipulate defences. And luckily, the teams that I played at, that's probably why I never played Premiership, because they didn't want a second row like that. They wanted somebody who just hit that. But I was lucky that the teams that I went into, they were quite happy and they knew my skill set and put me out. And when I was at the end, well, when I was 30 odd, and I'd kind of give up a bit on the full time dream. I'd had the kids and stuff, and I was moving back home to St Helens. That's when I ended up going to Fylde, and that's when they had Brian Ashton there, and his way of coaching just blew my mind, and that's then really got the appetite going for the coaching. Listening to every coaches Lancashire as well, and he's looked after me a long time now. He coached me when I was at Arnold when we were younger. Right. So having them two there coaching, and Brian's philosophy, like he was way above everyone else, how he thought and trained, and that really whet my appetite for it to get into the coaching. And I started. That's when I properly wanted to be a coach now.
Okay, mate. So talk us through some of your Sedge memories then, mate, before we get carried on with your coaching. So
go on. Oh, yeah, I've jumped to keep jumping back and forth.
No, that's what the chat's about, though, isn't it? It's just how it flows, mate.
Yes, essentially it was great, mate. We had we won a couple of Lancashire Cups. We had 2 promotions as well. We won the Nat 3 North it was at the time, and then we won National 2, and then went into the Championship then. Right. But it changed. But there was some real good players and some good memories, and like I talked about before, my old wagman, Dennis, his lad Chris played at Sedgley. Yeah. So we went through the memories together there. Dave McCormack, who was a St Helens lad as well, he had a little spell at Saints, but he was a West Park lad. He was at Sedgley as well. Right. So we had like a little St Helens car. We went up back from training, and it was good times.
So how were them big games, mate? What sort of are you? How do you deal with the big occasion? Are you a nervous player, or are you pretty cool?
I think even up until I retired, I used to always go on with the confidence. And I remember playing against. So you'd rock up as a youngster and they'd be like, I remember Dave Baldwin, the ex-Sale second row, and he coached me at Lancashire Day. I remember playing against him when he was finishing. Yeah. And they're going to me, you're playing against Dave Baldwin today. And I was just that cocky as a kid. I wasn't that bothered. I was like, he's going to know he's played against me by the end of it. And I kind of had that attitude as a kid.
It's a good one, though, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think I'd walk onto the pitch. You get the odd butterflies, but I was always kind of super confident. And probably it's that fine line that I say to my players all the time. You're confident and arrogant. You're just on the line, aren't you? Without pushing it. You've got to have your confidence. But don't get too arrogant with yourself. And I was always probably on that confidence line.
Right. And when you're winning them sort of trophies, and I'm just looking here, the people you've represented, so you've got honours, which hopefully you'll touch on as well. And is that something that did you just think it'd happen all the time? Or did you understand that it takes a good graft to get there? Yeah. Well, it did do it. It's not so hard now, is it?
Yeah. But I think we had everything about it. This was probably a good question when you reflect and look back. I think it's having that good coaching setup and good players, and then it's having that will and desire to win. And it kind of, I remember after I left Sedgley and I went to Arnold, Arnold got relegated that year. We only won about 2 games, so I'd gone from winning everything and doing really well at Sedgley and going to Arnold, and it was a real struggle. It was when Dave Whelan kind of just pulled his money out. Right. A lot of good young players. I was talking about it the other day to someone. A lot of really good young players. I think I was like 3rd oldest in the team at 23, or something like that. Yeah, at the time. But like a lot of these players went on and did really good things. Yeah. But you look at it then, and I think that taught me a lot. And I think because I had a good season playing, even though it was in kind of a relegation season, that's where I moved on to Nottingham after that, and that's where probably the championship would have been different things happen. But I think so I had that flip side. So I'd gone from winning everything to actually we're losing now most weeks, and it could be mentally tough. I remember going back to Sedgley. It was the Christmas Boxing Day game. Yeah. I remember getting beat off, and I remember just being like upset, like almost crying, tears in the showers afterwards, thinking, "Why have I left here?" And it's just And I was like I say, I was probably only 23, something like that, but.
Very difficult to go from one extreme to the other as well.
Yeah. It? So and it's just, and I think everything, it's like life, isn't it? It gives you curveballs, and it's how you deal with it and learn from it. And then what kind of attitude you've got. You'll have people who are going to sit in a corner, and you have lads who are going to puff the chest up and get out there and do it, kind of thing. So so I probably had them flip sides.
Yeah.
Back then to help me and teach me and push me on.
Right. So even when they went down, you got signed from a better team when they went down.
Yeah. Well, I ended up going to Nottingham.
Right.
And it was on this season. I used to have do you know, Rich Wilkes was the big agent. He's involved with Leicester Tigers now. He's actually sold the agency, but Wilkes he had all the best players. And when I was at Sale, he was kind of looking after me. And when I went to Warrell, he ended up going on asking for money, and he was going, "Oh, I can only give you this," and I'm going, "You're my agent." I said, "Like, can't you get me the best deal?" Yeah. So I ended up kind of just going on my own. And then there's a website called the Rolling Mall, and it used to cover all from the Championship down to National. It's still going. And I set up as someone called In the Know on there, and I just go on and give myself a write up.
Yeah. You've got to do what you've got to do, mate. And
I'll never forget. I know when it was that I did that interview for the rugby paper not long ago. It was with John Newcombe, who was in charge of the Rugby Times at the time. Right. And I put something on this fan forum saying that Cornish Pirates and Plymouth was interested in me because I've had such a good season. Yeah. And I'd agreed. I met with Rotherham and a few other clubs, and I met with Simon Beatham, his name, at Nottingham. And we played Arnold, as it happened. Arnold played Nottingham last game of the season. We beat him, Arnold. We beat him, but he had my contract, and he said when everyone's having food, come and sign it on the bus afterwards. So I went onto the team bus, and he passed me the contract, and I said, "I don't think I can sign this, mate." I said, "Why?" I said, "Have you not read the rugby paper?" And in the rugby paper, they have an in the loop. And it's just basically loads of rugby rumours. And it just said, highly rated second row Paul Arnold being linked with Cornish Pirates and Plymouth. And I said, "Have you not read it?" And he went to me, yeah, I've read that. I've read it. I said, "Well, if you throw in a car on a £2,000 signing on fee, I'll sign it now." And he went, "Okay." And he wrote it in pen on the contract. So I was like, "Nah. Right, lads, we're out in town tonight. Nexus is on me." So yeah.
They see you do what you have to do, mate, don't you?
So I did that back then. So that was quite a funny one. And then, like I said, I did that interview, and that John Newcombe, I seen him on Saturday at the Rugby game, John, and he said to me, "I don't know if I could put this in because that was my paper that he stitched it over there." And he did, to be fair to me, he put it in. But yeah, so that they were good. That was good times. Nottingham was a good year. I only did 1 year there.
Yeah.
And then my ex-wife now, she got pregnant, and Moseley come in with like double my offer, and it was like a 3-year deal, house, car. So it kind of just knowing I was having a baby on the way, it kind of made me go, right, I'm gonna have to go over there, kind of thing. So yeah, but Nottingham was a good year. We had some really good players. But yeah, and then I moved over to Birmingham Moseley, they're called now. I did like 3 years at Moseley, which was really good. We won the EDF Cup, beating Leeds, beat Exeter in the semi-finals. So we had some really good players. We had a link with Gloucester, so we had like Dan Norton, Charlie Sharples, Henry Trinder, all these lads who went on and played for Gloucester for the last 10 years. Jack Adams, who passed away the other year, he was an unbelievable player. We ended up beating Exeter in the semi-final, and they made it a double header. So Exeter had a chance to get promoted. They got promoted the season after, and obviously the rest is history now with them. But they were going to get. They was on to get promoted. It was between them and Leeds Tykes, or Leeds Carnegies, they were known, to get promoted. And we played them at Sandy Park early on in the year. We got beat 80 points to 5. Playing for Moseley. And I'll always remember because I scored the last try and I jumped up and said, "Last try winner, lads." So got beat 80 points to 5. I scored in injury time. "Last try winner, lads, never mind." But we played them at our place, and because we had them in the cup and the league, they asked to do it as a double header. Yeah. And we beat them, turned them over. So they ended up losing the semi-final and then missing out on promotion by 2 points to Leeds. And they sacked their head coach the day after, and that's when Rob Baxter come in. And the rest, the rest of the district was all down to Moseley. Really, that's why Exeter were Premiership champions and European Cup winners in the last 10 years. So, but yeah, so that was good. And then we played Leeds in the final and turned Leeds over as well. So, they were good memories.
Gosh, mate, and are you someone that keeps like the stash and that, or Is your dad got him or something like that? And he
No, do you know what? I did give a lot away, but I have in my other room got a few shirts up. So yeah, I've kept a few shirts, and my granddad passed away the other year, just short of 91 he was. He did a scrapbook from me from when I was 6 at Blackbrook.
Brilliant.
And he did it all the way till I finished. Yeah. So in my garage, there's like 5 scrapbooks full with everything. And yeah, every so often you just have a look in and you look back, and he's got all the county finals from Lancashire. He's got playing for the Barbars. I played for England County. He's got all of it. So I used to just come up when I'd come home on a weekend. I'd bring in the local papers. And he'd sit there and cut them all out and stick them in. That was like the highlight of his week, doing them all. And then I never had. It was only after he passed away. They got them all up the cupboard. And he had them all up there. Yeah. So yeah. So I've still got all them. Yeah. So they're good. Good. I think in lockdown I had a look through and posted quite a bit found a lot of old match programs and different things. Yeah, it's good to look back.
No, it is, mate. And during your playing, I suppose I ask people, and I know your answer already, but did you ever look back and have a little reminisce just to remind yourself you've gone from playing in 2 elite clubs in St Helens rugby league wise, you fell out with rugby altogether, you've come back in just because your mates asked you, not because you particularly were bothered. Yeah. And then you've got as far as you've got. Did you ever get a chance to look back and think, you know what, I'm doing okay?
Yeah, I think it was one of them for me. I think I had 2 young kids. My ex-wife, as I said now, she the money was important, so I always kind of did well out of it as well. And yeah, that's why I think I moved about a bit when I was younger till I was moved back to St Helens. But yeah, you managed to look back and go, do you know what, you've done all right. And I still think I still have that niggling. Actually, if I would have tried that bit harder, done what people wanted me to do, I probably would have played Premiership and a bit more. So you always have that. Yeah, you've done all right.
All plowing it.
Yeah. Everything's hindsight's amazing, isn't it? But you can look back and go, yeah, I've done this, I've done that. But yeah, and I have loads of fond memories. Rugby's given me so much. It's kind of been my life for like 20 odd years.
Yeah. And how was it juggling all that with a young family, mate? And
that's
you're repping yourself as well, aren't you now? Well, you're repping yourself, so.
Yeah, it's tough. So I've just announced that I'm leaving Preston at the end of the season. After thinking, and I've got my little boy. He'll be 16 this year. Yeah. So he's got like a disability that they don't know what it is. They've never been able to diagnose it. Okay. So he doesn't walk, doesn't talk, and we kind of do everything for him. So we've had all the house adapted. We've got wet rooms done, hoists in his room. And when I'm travelling over, and like when I was at Fylde, and you're travelling from St Helens over to Fylde do you know what I mean? Or from where I am now over to Preston, it's just that little bit of time. It's just he probably needs me a bit closer, and so we're looking good this year for promotion. It's all in our hands, which is, I think it's more of a formality than it's just making sure we get the points over the line. Yeah. So when they get promoted next year, Preston into the National 2 North, which will be with Sedgley, Fylde, and then you've got Leeds, Tykes, Rotherham, Hull, Tynedale. So then the travel then becomes more again. So so I've made the decision to step down. But yeah, and that's, like I say, that's where I probably do reflect more now when the messages were coming out, or your stats about coaching and people highlighting. So they're nice, they're good. So I'm not, but yeah, you might be seeing me next year, mate, at West Park. So don't worry, you won't be.
But the thing is, you're saying a little bit of travelling. What your players will partly understand, because there's more to coaching than your Tuesday night on the field, your Thursday night on the field. It dictates your weekend. Yeah. It dictates your week, really, because you're thinking about who you're playing, you're thinking about who you've got available, whether you've got suspensions, injuries, unavailabilities for girlfriends, meals and stuff. Yeah. but it dictates.
Yeah, it does. It's not just like people just think you rock up at 7 o'clock on a Tuesday and a Thursday and rock up on a Saturday. You're not. You're watching videos in the week, what you can do better. You've got analysis of the opposition to watch. You're making your notes, you're speaking to your physios, you're speaking to your director of rugby, making sure you're speaking to them, the players, to see if they are available, or if they got childcare issues at the weekend, or if they've got to work. Yeah. Because so then you're constantly doing stuff and planning, and it takes up way more time than you think, if you know what I mean. But we still love it, don't we? That's how we do it.
And it's important that all them people you're touching on, that clubs like the Wids don't need to worry about.
Yeah.
But that like the clubs you've been around and in them sort of leagues, it's important your relationships are good with them people, isn't it? Because it doesn't work if one of you doesn't.
No, you've got to
have.
You've got. I've always said you've got to be honest in everything you do, so that you need to have that honest and working relationship with people where you can work around things and sort stuff out. So if lads aren't available for certain things, you need to know in advance. You need to know early. And I imagine though at the Wids, mate, when you've got lads there, it can be frustrating if they're not turning up for training or suddenly not available, but it's different. It's different constraints kind of thing, because the lads at Preston and the other teams we've met, they've been getting paid.
Yeah,
so it's still their job. So you kind of still have a bit of a say.
Yeah.
I remember Andy Northey told me a belter. And he said to me, if a kid knocked on your door and he said to me, I want to wash your car for free, and he washed it and he did a shit job, you can't really tell him off because he's just washed your car for free. He said, but if that kid knocks on your door and says, gives a tenner and I'll wash your car and he does a shit job, then you're going to tell him off, hey, you've done a shit job, are you not? And that's the same with rugby players. If you're coaching a level where none of them get played, do you know what I mean? You can't be too overcritical, I don't think. Because they're rocking up, they're giving up their time, they're not getting anything for it. So you've kind of imagine you've got to have that give and take. Where if you're paying lads to do it, well then there's a responsibility on them to make sure that they're doing it right and doing everything they can to do that.
That's fair enough, mate. So what come next then after Birmingham and Moseley, and when did all this rep stuff kick in for you? When did you feel established?
So my first, I was talking to Mark Nelson the other day on BBC Lancashire, and we were talking about it'd be 20 odd years since 21 years I think since I first played for the county for Lancashire. Right. So I think I just turned 21. Okay. I got picked for Lancashire in the county championship, and then Mark Nelson took over, and that's when we went on this amazing run with Lancashire, winning the most county championships out of all the counties. And yeah, from there, I went on to play for England counties, and I went on like 5-6 different tours of them to some unbelievable places. Argentina, Canada, Romania, playing against like their national sides. So I remember being, I was 22 in Canada, in Romania, playing against the Romanian national team. So like they were good times, and with some great players as well. So I did that for I think I went on 5 tours with England counties. Right. So that was good. But I think I got pissed in a bar one night and stood probably naked at the end of it, and they said I couldn't play anymore. So, well, you live and learn. I ended up going back coaching them after that. So not always. So, yeah, I suppose there is some bad things you look back and go, well,
all part of it, mate, and they're the memories that it's about, innit? And
which rugby players never been naked in a bar? Come on, it must happen every night at the Wids, that.
No comment. So how does the England county stuff come about, mate? What's the process of that?
So at the end of every season, if you've been good enough, you'll get selected for your county, and then you play in the county championship at the end of the season. So then then they'll have England counties coaches watching all the counties, and then you get selected from there to go on tour. So so it's kind of a good process and a big process. So there's a lot of players, if you know what I mean, are in that mix. But it was a great experience then. And like I say, went to some great places, played with some great players.
Rugby's really good for it. But what were you like in a new changing room, mate? Was you settling pretty quickly, or? Yeah,
I was probably a bit of a joker, to be honest. I'd be one of them players now who, as a coach now, I would have hated me. Absolutely. I see it with some of the lads now who I get frustrated with, and I'm like, oh, God, imagine trying to coach me back then. So I've got some great respect for the guys who coached me. But yeah, I was probably a bit of a joker, Right. But yeah.
And how long into your playing career did coaching become an idea for you?
I think when I moved back from Moseley, I was 29, I think it was. And I had 1 year at Caldy. Right. Caldy are flying at the minute now. They're looking like they're going to get promoted to the championship. Right. That's another good story. A guy called James Brown rocked up. I knew, so I with a name like James Brown. He come to Moseley, and he basically said he was a football investor. He worked for footballers, and he invested their money into property. And he come and met me with the coach, Matt Hull. And we sat there and he said, "What's your priority now?" And I said, "Well, I need to move back home. I've got 2 kids now. I need more family support." I said, "But rugby's important." He said, "No problem." And he offered this. It was like, it would have been about 35 grand to do Tuesday, Thursdays and Saturdays. And I was like, this is too good to be true. This is anyway. There's about 10 of us signed. There's Stu Turner, the old England prop, signed. Yeah. Richard Vasey, still there. He was at Moseley with me. He come down. Gaz Rawlins, the second row, played Lancashire with. We all ended up going to Caldy. And then after about 2 months, it just turned out he just made it all up. he was just a Walter Mitty. He'd made everything up. There was no money. Yeah, and he'd not told the club. So the club kind of had, the club and the coach, Matt, they didn't have much of an idea. But he'd fully winged it with Matt, who was the coach as well. It took him to a deal like for £1 million land sale. So Matt was like, he's real. I've just seen him sign this land over for this guy. And when this guy, he kind of just disappeared. And when he disappeared, I remember Matt going into the offices going, "Who's that?" And he went, "Oh, it's just our Joey who gets all our paperwork signed." So he fully did everyone over. Like we all had these contracts with this investment group thing, and it was on company's house, and there was money in it. You could go on. He'd done it all. He proper had a load of us all over. So a lot of lads ended up leaving. I nearly ended up having to go back to the Championship because of the money. So I nearly signed for Cornish Pirates. So I would have had to move down there and leave my
that's a trek, isn't it?
Kids up here. But luckily in the end, Caldy looked after me quite well, and I think I still have the record for 27 tries in 28 games for him that season. Wow. So I did all right for him. Yeah. And then after that season, I went to Fylde.
Right.
And that's when I wanted to start coaching well. So when I signed for Fylde, it was when they'd signed Jason Robinson. Yeah. Come out. So Jason Robinson went there, and Brian Ashton, and a few of us went in, and we had a great team. We had a really good team, and we got promoted. And I had 7 really good years at Fylde. Just a great club, great people. Really looked after me until I left for Preston, and that's like leaving for United for City kind of thing. So it upset a few then, but I think none of them will ever doubt what I did for him on the pitch and off the pitch. So so some really good memories there. And that's when I started coaching. I got involved with Lancashire under 20s. Yeah. So I was 30 years old, and that's when I started. And that's when I got in touch with Scott Barrow, who had coached, who had played junior rugby with. Yeah. So Scott, I think Scott's got a couple of Super League rings when he was at Leeds, when he was at Saints, and then he went playing Union, so he went playing in Glasgow for years, and then for Glasgow Warriors, and he's the backs coach now. He's the head coach at Sedgley Park, but he's doing he's working at Wasps as well, as heavily involved with Wasps. So I got involved with Scott. Scott was playing for Leeds at the time. Really, it was a bit of a plan to try and get him back to Fylde, but his full-time career was. Yeah. So me and him did the Lancashire under 20s, and we did 2 seasons. I think they lost 1 game, and that's where the buzz really started then for the coaching. And I took over as like forwards coach, running the line-outs, the scrums and stuff like that at Fylde, and that's how I started into it. But like I said, we had Mark Nelson there. There was another guy called Brian Gornall who was outstanding, and then you had Brian Ashton, the ex-England coach. And Brian, just his philosophy and how he just played T&P. Just played touch rugby all the time. All the training had a focus in it. So it'd be like 3-second rucks. You'd have we want to work on our kick chase. So you'd have 2 phases kick, and then you attack. So we were learning how to play. But to us, especially when you're in that full time environment, it's kind of like Groundhog Day. You split up as forwards and backs. You'll you'll knock 10 bells out of each other. There'll be loads of contact, loads of rucking drills, loads of tackling, and then you might come together for like 20 minutes at the end of a session and work together. That's how it used to be. But this was like, we were just turning up playing touch rugby. All session, we were like, this is amazing. I can't believe you can coach like this. And I always remember him saying to me, Arnie, you run the line-outs, don't you? And I was like, yeah. He said, I need a 5-man line-out. I said, no problem, Brian. He went, yeah, but I want you stood at 12. I said, what? He said, I want you stood at 12. He said, because I can see you play, and I want you offloading to the fast lads. I said, where have you been all my life, Brian? Get me at 12. Get me at 12. So like I say, when some clubs you played at, they didn't like you offloading or carrying, you know what I mean? They wanted you to just hit rucks, scrummage when you line outs. Well, then suddenly you had this guy just thinking completely outside the box.
Yeah, like a free roll.
Yeah, and he that's how we played. He wanted, he said he wanted Fylde to be like Fylde Kingston Rovers, they used to call them. He said like 1950s rugby league where there wasn't 6 tackles involved and you just kept it from one end of the pitch to the other. And that's what we did. We never kicked a ball. Right. We just ran it from our own mind. But we had Nick Royal on one wing, Ollie Brennan on the other wing, and Jason Robinson at fullback. So you could probably run it. You could run it from your own. You could run it from behind your own post, literally. And some of the rugby we played that year was just like a different level. I think remember looking at the stats for getting promoted, and I think we kicked something like 12 penalties all season. And that's when you think about now, teams are kicking 200 penalties a season. Yeah, just because we just always went for the 4-try bonus point and just ran it from everywhere, and that kind of then went in. That was kind of how I wanted to play rugby all along, offloading, fast pace. So yeah, it was really, really good.
Yeah. So do you think if you'd have had someone like that earlier on, mate? Like I know we were on about hindsight before, but the domestic scene definitely would have been your oyster sort of thing, wouldn't it? If you were allowed to be you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think that. Yeah, and I think I know Mark Nelson has said before. He said, "Oh, in a different regime and at different times, it would have been a lot different." Do you know what I mean? To do that, but back then it wasn't. Was it? There wasn't as much flamboyancy, and it was very much kick the ball and clap, as my mates will say.
Yeah, my mates will say the same. Oh yeah.
So yeah, it's very, very much a lot of that.
The Lancashire coaching then, mate, how did that come into force? Did you impress at Fylde? And
I think Mark Nelson again. He's involved coaching the Lancashire setup and has been for a while. And you get to know. I've played for Lancashire for 10 years now at this stage, and then they said, "Oh, why don't you get involved coaching the under-20s?" And that was a nice step into it. Yeah. And I did that for a couple of years, and then I got involved coaching with the county setup as well while I was still playing. And then after about what was it? Well, I was, I think, about 34. Mark Nelson was stepping down, and Fylde said to me they wanted me to take over. So hindsight again, wonderful. I remember Sedgley Park offered me the job as a player coach. And I remember thinking, I'm 34 now. I've probably got a few years left of playing and coaching, and obviously making as much as you can by combining 2 roles. So, and I remember Sedgley coming in for me and offering it me. And then Fylde got in touch and said, no, we want you to take over. And I was very reluctant at first because Nelly had done a lot for me, and I felt like I was probably stabbing him in the back. Yeah. But I spoke to him about it, and Bill Beaumont was involved at Fylde. That's his club. Yeah. So when you've got Bill Beaumont phoning you up saying, "Why would you want to leave this club?" Mark's leaving anyway. It's nothing to do with you. I think as a young, 34, and I weren't young, but I was like, yeah, this is Bill Beaumont. He was chairman of England Rugby at the time. He's chairman of World Rugby now. So I ended up taking over, and I think I did all right. We did well. But that's where I think that's helped me though when I talked about before the relationships of especially dealing with people and dealing with players who obviously that man management style. That's where I learned a lot, because I don't think if I went to another club ever again, I'd have the same man management issues as I did when you took over there. So like I said, you're going from being best mates, so you're not playing, or you're best mates with someone and then you're critiquing what you want them to do. And they go, "Oh, why are you speaking to me like that?" Yeah. Like I say, that's one of them where you learn a lot.
Right. So you prefer probably like a clean break, maybe.
I think hindsight. I should have probably gone to Sedgley. Right. Back then, but then it's one of them, isn't it? I might not have learnt all the things I learnt, especially trying to. I think I'm a decent person now at man management, and I know how to speak to lads. And probably the lad, like I said the other week when I announced I was leaving, I said the lads who I wasn't picking regular, they probably made up I'm leaving. Because nobody's ever liked a coach who doesn't pick them. So that was another bit of advice Brian Ashton said when I spoke to him about taking over. I said, "You got any advice?" He went, "Yeah, just get used to not being liked." Because not everyone's going to like you. Yeah. And I think for me as well, that was probably a challenge, because I always like being liked. You always want to make people happy, and you always want to do your best. And so then suddenly you go from, actually, you don't like me anymore. Well, I thought we were mates. So you have to learn a lot. It sounds probably a bit childish at times, but it's not.
Right, no one wants to be disliked, did he?
Yeah. So that was but I think like I said, I learned a lot doing that.
Yeah. So at the back end of your career, mate, did your game change much, or did you stick to you?
Yeah, I probably turned into what I was talking about earlier. I probably turned into Morgan Knowles without knowing. I probably did a few carries, then walked for 2 minutes, and then got a
Yeah.
few more. I always remember Chris Johnson, who's at Sale FC now, saying to me, "Just give me a good 20 minutes today," because he said that's all I did in 80, just a really quality 20, and that was enough for him. So yeah, probably tailed off a bit. And I think when I started player coaching, that was a big shock because you end up getting lost in the moment. So you end up watching everybody else. And I remember Jack Adams, I was talking before, God rest his soul. I remember playing Cinderford away, and I was watching the lads going, right, hit that rock, you hit that. And then the next minute, I was 1-on-1 in a 10-metre channel. He just did me in and out and scored in the corner. And I was like, what the fuck am I doing on this side of the pitch? Because I just end up watching. So that made me then learn and change then to make sure you had to have good trust. I think the best player coaches really are like your fly arse because they can control the game. I don't think there's any decent player coaches who've probably come from the second row or in the front row because you have to try and make sure you're just concentrating on your job. So then that was like when I took over at Preston, I was still player coaching. Just make sure you had somebody on the sidelines who could see and think how you wanted to think and let you know when there was a water break. Actually, we might need a sub here or we need to do this. Because if you get invested in watching the game, you're not playing in it.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
No,
so there's a lot of challenges when you play coaching that you don't think about. You just think, oh, I'm a decent player, I'm a decent coach, I'll be fine doing both. But it's so hard.
So how long was you at Preston for?
So yeah, this will be. So I was at File 7 year. This was my 5th season now at Preston, but we had a COVID year.
Yeah. So did you have the back line of Longy, Holroyd?
No, they were before me.
Was they?
Yeah, they were before me. Yeah.
So have you come in when a transition was sort of in?
So yeah, so basically, Fylde was in National 1, so the 3rd division, so level 3. And when we finished, I think we finished 10th the season. And I asked them for investments into players. So we were playing it. Coventry was in our league, and we beat them twice. And Coventry's budget was 1.5 million. My budget was 120. My budget was 120 grand.
Okay.
And even when I talked about when we had the Brian Ashton and the Mark Nelsons and myself as a player coach, and we had the really good team of players. Like I say, with your Nicky Royals, your Scott Barras, the Brays brothers, we had a really good side. We were finishing top 3. So our budget was probably like 100 grand. You had lads on just 100 quid a game. But you were playing these teams. Like I say, you were playing the teams down south, like your Roslyn Parks and your Richmonds. We were paying big money, and then you've got your Coventry's throwing out after like playing full time. Doncaster was in our league; they were full time, and we was always like the top 5. And then when I kind of took over, that's when a lot of lads had started retiring.
Yeah.
So then suddenly you had to bring all these youngsters through, which they've got a really good young side now, and a lot of them I coached the England counties under 20s, and a lot of them made it onto that tour as well. And they've got a good young side, but it was getting harder and harder to try and compete with these teams because the quality of all the older players, when they'd retired, and you're bringing all you young players through. So I asked them to invest in some players, and I had a really good player called Jack Turley, a Kiwi guy. One of the guys at Fylde had given him a job. And I said, look, I need some investment. I said, you invested in me when I come. I said, I need invest in another older head like myself. And I said, and I want to build a team around Jack. I said, he's a great player. And the guy went, I'm just going to be cutting your budget another 20 grand. And I've just told Jack he's not available next year. He's not got a job next season. So I was like, I just have a proper emoji. Like, oh, Jesus. And then I went out and I was like, I can't stay. I said, we're going to get relegated. I was like, I can't stay. I love the club, but also as a young coach, which that might sound selfish, I was like, I don't want to have a relegation on me CV. Yeah. I was like, and no matter, you could have had Eddie Jones in the, do you know what I mean? You could have had anyone. The players were good players, but they was all 21. It was a bit like that Arnold season. Yeah. I could see that happening. These players really developing and learning, but it was going to be a tough season.
At least you said it and acted on it, though, innit?
Yeah. So I spoke to the club, and then I kind of said I was leaving, and like I said, the travel, the little lad, everything else, and then I thought I'll just see what happens. So basically said I was leaving, and Preston got in touch, and Preston had just got relegated from National 2.
Yeah.
So there was 2 leagues separate from what Fylde was, and I thought to myself, I could go in there, met the people, really good people. And they had a good vision for the club, and I thought I could go in here and get a promotion.
Yeah.
If you know what I mean. And that's what happened. We went in, we got promoted, File got relegated. So second game of the season was Preston v File the year after. So yeah, so I kind of hopefully I think I made the right choice at the time, yeah. So, but that was one of the reasons behind it, which was kind of tough to leave a club that I'd had so much success at and enjoyed. Yeah, but then going to Preston was also a good move for me as in the coaching. I'd gone from being everyone's best friends to suddenly I could coach how I want to coach. They don't know how to take me as such. It's tough when you know it's like yourself as a player when you're having a laugh and a joke and a crack with lads all the time. Then suddenly you're the boss. You're like, I can't sit at the back of the bus anymore. I'm going to sit at the front. It's like a bit of a killer. But I still had a good relationship with a lot of the players and stuff. But Preston was a good move for me. Yeah.
Right. So obviously you've called time on that now, mate. So what does the future hold for you?
I told you, mate, I think I'm going back West Park.
Yeah, are you going to give that a go, yeah?
Yeah, I spoke to them the other day and they've asked me if I want to be, it's like a sort of mile and a half from my house.
Happy days.
I was looking at some of the fixtures. So I've not agreed anything as much with them, but I've had quite a few clubs like send me messages and say, right, I know you're stopping down from the National Leagues, but would you come and coach us? And I've said if I was going to go anywhere, I'd go back to West Park. I think it'd be a nice way to full circle from where I started my senior rugby.
Oh, it is definitely,
to going back and helping them. And I went watching them last week to see what they were like over at Allwinians, and they've got a very young side. Yeah. So I'm Bavi Fassavalau, which I thought was hilarious. His lad played in the second row. His lad was like 17, I think, in the second row. But he had to come on after the first minute, and it was like playing with the cheat mode. Like, do you remember Jonah Lomu when you used to have the massive Jonah Lomu? Yeah. He'd come off the bench and he was brilliant. He just marshalled the team, and then when he had to, he carried. When he had to, he made a big tackle. He stood on the wing, got organising. He was just like a puppeteer. I thought, how good's that for them young lads coming from St. Helens to have Fassavalau there? Yeah. So I had a chat with him the other day about potentially about going, and if I'm going to go anywhere, I think it's 90% done that.
Good luck with that, though, mate. Yeah.
When you've got, so it's got you boys in there, Tuck H, isn't it?
Weekend. Yeah, they've won the league now, haven't they? Yeah. Yeah. So that time of the chat, mate, when I get some daft questions at you.
Yeah.
Right. So any pre-match superstitions?
Not really. My nan gave me a St. Christopher. I used to keep it in my gun shield box. I'd make sure I held that before I played. Yeah. It was always kind of looking over me, kind of thing. And So that was my little superstition that I'd make sure I did. Nothing else.
Yeah. So toughest player you played with and against?
Yeah, it's a tough one. I was thinking about it. I think Tim Ferry, when I talked about at Sedgley Park, Tim was a tough South African. He played in the '95 Rugby League World Cup for South Africa, right, over here, and then he ended up staying and playing for Leeds. And he played for Leeds, but he was so tough. And when I talked about him saying, if you hit people, I'll pick you. Yeah. And he used to threaten to knock me out every training session. Arnie, I'd take you in the dark and only one of us comes out. That's what he used to say when I was probably messing about in training when I shouldn't have been. But he's actually a good friend. I still speak to him, and I think we had a lot of, he'd give me a lot of advice over the years. But he was hard. He was really hard. I'm play against, I think, Darren Fox was the old Northampton back row at 7, and he went to Exeter. He was like granite, and like if he ever hit you, even with his shoulders on a tackle, you were like, you knew you'd been hit. Yeah. And like he was just one of them menacing ones where if I saw an head, I wouldn't mind giving it a slap all my way through. But if I saw his head, I'd probably just go, it's not worth it, this one. We'll leave it. I'll let the other one behind him. He just looked that menacing as well. And he was still playing for Cambridge not that long ago. Right. But he was an absolute unit as well, as a proper nose. And again, there was a back row I played with, Dave Wilkes, who coaches the Leicester Academy now. He was hard, but in a different way of hard. He'd put his head where I would have put my boots. Yeah. He'd come off the pitch, and back then when you could shoe someone to death, do you know what I mean? He'd come off looking like a tiger with just that much shoeing all over him and black eyes and stuff. He was just hard. just a hard player to play with. He was brilliant on your side. I played with him at Oral and Nottingham, and he was good. He was good like that. Yeah.
Your favourite away ground?
I always like going to Bedford.
Yeah.
I always played well there. But I always quite intense. They get like 3,000-4,000 probably.
Oh, right, okay.
And it's quite a good ground, and it was always vocal, and it was always up there in the championship, near the top of it. They still are, to be fair. And and then obviously we were playing at Twickenham when we played for the county finals and stuff like that. But that was a good away ground to go to, Bedford.
So you've had a few with the fellas, mate, and you've ended up in whatever pub has a karaoke going on, and the mic's in your hand. What are you giving us?
Call me Al, Paul Simon.
Wow.
I'd rock out, I'd rock about a bit. And for the 26-second intro, I'd probably be doing the music as well. I'd be getting it all going. I'd be Chevy Chase for 30 seconds, definitely. But call me Al's my go-to.
Yeah. So if you can, mate, you're 1 to 15 that you've played with or coached.
Yeah, I was thinking about this. I've kind of gone with probably played against more than and played with. So, I think the Northampton Pop Tonga.
Yeah,
he's still doing a shift now, playing for Ansel in the Championship.
Yeah.
He was just an absolute monster. I've touched wood. I managed to get through my career without many bad injuries, and I did my MCL, so my medial ligament just on the outside. And I was getting up for a ruck, and he was taking a short pop off 9, and I tried to like Tommy Martin Cumberland throw him.
Yeah,
and he just snapped me like absolutely sweat. I was like, oh. he ruptured my median. Well, he was just a big lad. Yeah, and then there was a prop called Nathan Williams I played with at Moseley, Welsh lad. He was good. He was like I used to train him with the gym in the morning when we did our gym sessions. He was like, he'd be benching 180, like just strong as anything. I used to always say it's because them props have got massive chests and little arms, haven't they? You know what I mean? He's just like this, knocking them out. Yeah. I'm like, I can't lift that much, mate. My arms are too big. Just because I was weak as shit to him. He was massive. Yeah, and then if I went on to hooker, I'd probably go with Alex Loney, who's coaching at Fylde now. Yeah. We played for Lancashire together for many years, and he's just a good lad, but unbelievable scrummager, brilliant arrows in the line out. He'd always find me when I was calling the line outs, and we played at Nottingham together when he was a young lad and lived together. Right. So that was another one again, that Fylde circle. We played together, lived together when we were younger, and then he moved back to the area and we were playing at Fylde together, and he's coaching up at Fylde now. Right. So he was good. And then probably the other prop I played with, there's Barrington who plays for Saracens. Yeah. I don't know if you've seen Bazza when Saracens have won he's the one who does his remix in the changing rooms. Yeah. I played for the Barbars with him. And he was just a good. He was only young then, but he was just a good lad. But then the special mention before for Terry Sigley. So Terry Sigley I played at Moseley with him, and he played for about 8 Premiership clubs. So he kind of went Gloucester, Bath, Sale, moved around. Right. But the night we beat Leeds in that EDF Cup final, he went down for the first scrum, and the Leeds lads went, "Fucking hell, how many did you have last night?" He had about 12 pints and got man of match. the night before the EDF Cup final at Twickenham, he was absolutely bladdered. Him and the hooker, both of them else. I was like, oh, but he was some boy. He was some player. And then I probably went to the second row. I think I went with Atoji, who had played against. It's quite a nice one. We played against him when he was on loan at Old Albanians against Fylde. Right. And I ran over him and scored. Short ball out, ran straight over him and scored and gave him a load of verbals. He was England under-20s captain at the time. Okay. And at half time, on the halfway line, there was a scrum. And I said to him, "You're shit." I said, "Under-20s captain." I said, "I'm better than you and I'm 34. I said, "You're rubbish." And Scott Barrett come walking over to me and he went, "Yeah, but you weren't as good as him when you were 19, were you?" I went, No, fair play, mate. You're going to be a good player, you. Keep your head down, you'll be all right. But he was an absolute specimen then. Yeah. You know how good he is now. He's probably up there as one of the best players still in the world. He's breakdown work, watching the Saracens highlights again before. He was unbelievable. But yeah, he was about 19, and I was giving him a load of verbals. And then Scott brought me down to earth straight away. so that was good. And then in the second row, when I played at Sedges Park, I played with a guy called Eric Lundy, who went on and played at the Ritz. And he was a specimen as well. So Eric, probably me and Eric, if you probably were going to pick the two, I was the one probably scoring the tries, and he was the one doing all the legwork. But he's the one who went on the best. He had a really good Premiership career with Leeds and Rotherham, and then went over to Biarritz. And his brother was Magnus Lund, who played for Sale in England. So I played at Sale with Magnus. But Eric was 6'8", the Viking. He had auditions for the WWF.
Did he?
Wrestling, yeah, he nearly got in. Yeah. There's Eric the Viking. Yeah, he was that big.
That's mad, isn't it?
Yeah. So, but like, he's good. He was a good player as well. Good player. He was in my first county final as well. Our first one, it was me and him in the row. So yeah, so it was some good times with him. I think back row was again going against, as you were talking about. I played probably Moriarty when we played against him as a youngster. So you had some good lads coming at Hartbury College where they all had the Gloucester licks, and Moriarty. Now, if you watch him playing for Wales, I remember, I think he scored like a hat trick in the first half against us, and we had like a good old head side, and he was just carrying like a machine, and he would have only been 20 then, and you kind of thought, well, this lad's a bit special.
Yeah.
And then we've kept it Welsh with the 7, and I played Barbarians with Josh Navidi.
Yeah.
And I remember him rocking up, and when we played for the Barbars, we were like, yeah, let's get on the lash, and this lad was professional as anything. He just had about 10 games for Cardiff Blues. And he was dead good, and we can probably kind of give him a bit of grief for being soft. But wow, what a player! In the game I played against the combined services, so it was a lot of the Fijian team as well playing, and he was everywhere. He was unbelievable. So I'll probably give him at 7 with a special mention for Dave Wilkes, who I was on about before from the Hardman. Again, Wilkes, he just put his head where our boots and tackled everything. And then number 8, I went with Dan Ward-Smith, the ex-England 8. I played against him an awful lot, and he was again just a physical specimen. One of his legs was like the size of both of mine together, and he was unlucky. He went to Bristol. He was playing for Plymouth. Bristol signed him in the Premiership, but Leicester Tigers and a few others wanted him. But at the time, Plymouth were paying that much money. Yeah, he was on mega money down in Plymouth, and wouldn't take a risk because a Premiership club wouldn't take that much of a risk on him because he was from the league below.
Right.
Bristol ended up taking him. And then I think he had 10 caps for England before he ruptured all his knee ligaments and had to retire. But as a player, I think if he would have stayed fit, he would have been one of them you were talking about for having so many caps.
Right.
He was that good. And then, 9s have been lucky. I played on the England Counties tours with Sean Perry, the England scrum half. He weren't just a great player. Again, when you talk about that pathway of the late developers, the England Counties was so good for that. You had people like Sean Perry on it, Ben Foden was on it, James Rodwell, the England 7s, was at Molesey with us as well. You had all these lads coming through this pathway, Dave Strettle. So these lads all played for the England county, and he was just a great bloke, Sean Perry. We got on well, but he was one hell of a player, and he went on to earn 50-odd caps or something like that for England. And then with the Rich Wigglesworth as well, another one. He's obviously like all-time. He was at Sale when I was there. He was great. And then just jumping in here, but that Harry Randall who's playing now for England. Yeah. Again, we played Hartbury. It was when I was player coaching for Fylde. And he was warming up at the sidelines. And we were winning. Hartbury was going to win the league, but we were winning something like 21-15 with about 15 minutes to go. And I just saw this little lad warming up, and he just looked like he'd come out of primary school. The shirt was like 10 times too big, and I was like, "Come on, bring this kid on." What's he going to do? 4 tries later in 20 minutes, and we lost. And I remember going, "Wow, who is this kid? What?" Yeah. And then now you see him ripping it off. He went from Gloucester to Bristol, and he scored. Just like, well, like I remember that he must have been 18, 19, but he looked like he was 12 on this with this massive shirt on at the sidelines. And like I said, 4 tries in 20 minutes. So we ended up losing, but he's special. I think the 10s, some of the best 10s I played with, probably I played with a lad called Rich Kenyon at Fylde, who was outstanding. He owns a nice cheese factory, Dulé Cheese, and give him a shout out. But RK was a really good special player. And I think when you were playing against, I remember Riles probably mentioned it as well, you had Carlos Spence was playing for Northampton against us, and he was good. But probably Andrew Mertens, when he was at Harlequins, and he just kicked the ball off everything. and you just couldn't get any build. Anytime you got close, they get it and they just stick you back on your own line as a play from there. And he just gave it like a mastermind. Obviously played for the All Blacks, didn't he, and everything else. So he weren't a bad one. So so then if I went to the wings, I probably put Dave Strettle on one wing, Saracens, Harlequins, and local Warrington lad. He was phenomenal. Again, another late bloomer. Played a lot of his rugby in the Championship before he went to Harlequins and that. And then obviously he had many caps as well for England and went on at Clermont in France and done it there. And he was some player. And then you're probably going to put Nicky Royal up there when I was at Fylde, and he's still doing it now. Royal, he's 35, and he was at Widnes, weren't he, in Warrington at Rugby League. And he played at Fylde with us, and he was outstanding, really good. And then they were going into the centres. I'd probably go with Scott Barra again. So Scott, like I say, he played for Saints. He got so many games for Saints that went to Union. But Scott probably didn't lack pace. He lacked a bit of pace, but he was, even when we were kids, but he was always like 5 seconds quicker than everyone else in the head. He just knew. We take the mick out of him all the time with his slow and goes. That's all he's calling him. Always another slow and go. But he had so much vision, and he could do. He's so skillful and brave, tackle. Yeah, like I say, he's having a great coaching career. He's doing really well with Sedgley Park now, and doing well at Wasps. And I'd say Scott probably at 12. At 13, I'd go Chris Wiles. He was at Saracens in the USA. I played with him at Nottingham. We used to call him the gift, because it was like anything he did, he was just like a gift. He was that good. And then he had a great season at Nottingham, and that's when he went to Saracens after that.
Right.
Probably won everything. I think he owns that Wolfpack Lager now. Yeah, that's one of his companies. But he was a player. Yeah, so skillful, and quick, strong, brave. Yeah, he was really good to play along that season. Right, and then who was going to go? Well, I'll have to go Jason Robinson at fullback, won't I?
Of course.
Oh yeah, at Fylde, we had that season together, and he still had it. He was like 34, but the things some of it did, and again, when you talk about at the start of it about what did you learn, what did you train, I can always remember one game we were playing Westow. I think we was top. Westow were like second, but we'd almost sewn the league up, and we were beating Westow by 80 points. And from the kickoff, they got it and went full length. And from nowhere, he'd sprinted 70 yards across the pitch and smashed this lad into touch on the corner flag. And half of us had stopped. So we were like, it's 18-0, it's last play. But that was that mentality, that extra level mentality. But that makes you win a World Cup mentality.
That's it.
That was that level where he was like, no one's scoring. Yeah. Which is kind of good at the minute, because I probably took that to my defence with Preston, where I'm coaching. With our last 3 games, we've not conceded a point. So that's a record. Three clean sheets in rugby. I think it's something doing from it. Yeah, I think so. I was trying to ask the question today. I was like, 3 clean sheets in rugby. So yeah, I think the last 3 games is 274-0.
Was that on Twitter? That seeing that, yeah.
So I'm really stickling on the defence now, and I will coach the defence, and it's that mindset. And I've managed to look. You need the lads to do it.
Yeah,
I've managed to drill that mindset into him. That actually, lads, no one scores, no matter what. And even like you say, that they're pulling the tripe out on the line when you're winning by 60 points. And I'm not bothered about the 60 points. I'm just saying I want a nil. Yeah, I enjoy a nil more than I do winning by so much, because I think, and the lads have got that work rate and desire for each other to keep teams out. I think that's probably one of the best ones. So yeah, that it's having that desire.